Hello and welcome to this video and to one that I said I was going to film, it feels like months and months ago, and that's my sort of thoughts and feelings about the fourth trimester, as I've done one for the first, second and third. I thought it was only fitting to do the fourth, which is classed as the first 3 months after you give birth. So obviously in this one you have a baby. Eloise is, as I'm filming, 4 months old. So here's the thing, I don't know whether the fourth trimester finishes at the end of the 3rd month or at the beginning of the 3rd month. I think it's at the end, so I think we've only just come out of it. But the hardest part for me was definitely the beginning, and I will go through. I don't really have a plan for this video. I'm also on a time limit because I'm doing this while dinner is being cooked because Pete can keep an eye on Eloise, and all of that kind of stuff. So let's get into it. I'll start at the beginning, so we'll start post-birth recovery and my night in hospital, because that is the immediate aftermath. So if you saw my birth story, which I'll link up here if you haven't and you're interested, I had to have a night in the hospital. So Eloise was born over 24 hours after my waters first broke, so they needed to observe her for 12 hours to make sure that she didn't have any infection or anything like that. That's essentially just taking her temperature, and there was another test that they were doing, but I can't remember what that one was. But that meant that finished at 2 o'clock in the morning. Yay! So it also meant that we had to have a night in hospital. They were also very busy, so I was on a ward. We did ask whether there was a room so that Pete could stay, but he couldn't, so I had to do it by myself. It's very nerve-wracking. And yeah, they came in every 3 hours for her, 2-3 hours for her, every 4 hours for me. So basically I got interrupted all night, plus I had a baby who was crying at points, quite a lot of points, and all of that stuff. So I didn't sleep. Well, I got maybe an hour, which isn't ideal after probably, let's try and work this out off the top of my head. So I probably started my contractions at 7, and I had her at, so that's 7 p.m. the previous day, so that's 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So it's probably a 19-hour labour that I had, ish, between contractions starting properly and her being born. So after 19 hours of labour, no sleep the night before, I then was on a ward with no sleep, and obviously a lot had gone on, so there was a lot of pain, all of that kind of stuff. So wasn't the ideal start. Eloise had the most ginormous poo, so I did rope in one of the staff to help me with that, because partly because I just was knackered and I couldn't face it, partly because I was in a lot of pain and struggling with movement, and everything would have taken like 10 times as long. I'd asked for paracetamol in the hospital about 4 times, I never got it. I only got that the morning after when Pete came and went, I've brought this, but I assume you've had it. And I hadn't, so that was great. So yeah, I was in a lot of pain, so I had to ask for some help with that and all of that kind of thing. That probably leads me on to, we're going to jump about a bit, that leads me on to continued recovery for me. I struggled with my back for a very long time. The position that I gave birth in meant that most of the pressure was on, Adam's gonna like this, my coccyx, so that was really bruised, so it made sitting and moving and getting up and down pretty hard, which with a baby is very difficult. So that was the initial part. It was really painful. That's the bit that took the longest. Like the stitches that I had, they were fine. Obviously the first of going to the toilet are pretty painful, but again that worked out fine. But the back and that pain lasted for weeks, and then it sort of travelled up a bit because obviously with a baby you're doing a lot of bending, there's a lot of bending to do that, a lot of bending to feed. You then go to baby groups, there's a lot of bending over. If you're playing, you're bending, all of that kind of stuff, and it just really irritated my back. And as I said, she's 4 months and I'm not quite healed in that respect. I'm not doing the exercises I probably should be, but I'm not quite healed, but it is better than it was. I don't, at this point, so like 6 o'clock every day, by the time Pete came home, I was like physically could not carry on holding her, doing things with her, because it was just so painful. So we're not there anymore, which is good. For that I did end up going to the doctor, going to the physio to try and see if there's anything they could do to help me make sure that everything's fine. It was just a case of rehabbing it, working it, and you know, patience for it to heal. And as I said, it's not quite there. I get days where it flares up a bit and it's more painful than others. Those are the days where I have to like pace about with her more when she's crying and things. If we have a good day where she's pretty chill and happy, I can do the day even with the clubs and things like that. If she's having a bad day and she's doing a lot of crying and I have to do a lot of holding and pacing and rocking and all of that stuff, then my back isn't too good. So yeah, that's been the main physical thing for me to contend with and get over. But as I said, it's getting there, and I think slowly but surely it will. Obviously she's going to keep getting heavier, so I think it's going to keep getting a little bit bad and then better and then a little bit and then better. I think that's going to just be the way that it goes, just because of the nature of what I'm doing at the moment. The other thing that was big, like a big thing, very soon after birth, was obviously breastfeeding. If you've seen any of my videos, you probably gathered that we are bottle feeding and she's on formula. That is because I wasn't able to breastfeed. I tried. I think that's part of the reason why she was so upset in the hospital, because obviously she'd try and latch on and I don't think she was really getting anything to fill her up, and her tummy's only little. But although everyone said that she had a great latch, it was causing me no end of discomfort, and I mean no end of discomfort, to which point at about 3 days in, she'd done so much damage to my nipple that it was bleeding, and then she projectile vomited my blood across the room, which is very scary as a mum, a very new mum, and there was no way that she was going to be able to go back on that boob. And then the other one was very close to going as well. So that's the first part. So after that, obviously lots of tears. Essentially someone took Eloise, because my mum was here at the point, so someone took Eloise, probably Pete. My mum cleared up the mess and I went and had a shower and cried for ages, because it's not nice. You feel like you've done something really wrong and you've done loads of damage and all of that kind of thing, and you're sore, and yeah, and your hormones are all over the place anyway because it's like day 3, and yeah, it wasn't good. We tried to like hand express because we'd ordered a electric breast pump. We tried to use the Hacker, tried to use nipple shields, but no. Tried to hand express but got not even a teaspoon. So eventually the electric pump came, so we tried that, and I did that for 2 months, I think. Yeah, I think I was aiming for 3 but only managed to get to 2, because basically my whole day revolved around pumping and sterilising that pump, and I couldn't do anything else because I was attached to that pump all the time. Although it was a hands-free one, it wasn't that portable, and it went on for ages. It was like 40 minutes per boob and I was getting like 10 mil. For context, a feed for a baby of Eloise's age at that point was 80, I believe. 120, 80, 120, so 10 mil. So I think at my peak, at my absolute peak, and this is pumping all day and just storing it in one bottle. I think I got to 80. But that only lasted like 2 days and then it just diminished rapidly. I'm not convinced that even if I could breastfeed, that there would have been enough supply for her. Although I know that it would have stimulated stuff and things like that, and I'm never going to know for sure, but I pumped loads. And nothing ever really happened. So at the 8-week, 2-month mark, I was finding that I just couldn't get it all done and get her sorted and doing all of that. And then we were also venturing out a bit more because we started going to baby groups and things like that after her first set of jabs. That I was like, why am I bothering? This is causing me no end of stress and upset and things like that. That there's no point in me continuing with this. She's barely getting anything from me anyway. It's like a nothing thing, so let's just switch to formula feeding entirely, completely, and let's give up for that for now. Which again leads me to my next thing, guilt. Obviously I felt so guilty. I mean, I still feel pretty guilty about it. In hindsight, formula feeding has been great for us. It's meant that Pete's been able to do a lot. It's meant that we've been able to do split shifts for nights so that he can feed her and I can feed her and we both get a decent amount of sleep. We'll get on to sleep soon. It's meant that I don't have to do everything. I'm not attached to her, but it does cause no end of guilt because all you hear throughout everything, throughout all of your pregnancy, is how breast is best and all of that kind of thing, and all the benefits of breastfeeding and what you give your child through breastfeeding, etc, etc, etc. And obviously I couldn't do it, so it felt like I couldn't support my child, I couldn't help my child thrive, I couldn't do all of this kind of stuff. So there was an endless amount of guilt with that. Adding to that, one that I didn't expect to be quite as much, but I suppose I did and I didn't, was the dog guilt. The guilt I had for Jeff, because obviously we have completely flipped his life upside down, where he was our like number one and we gave him loads of cuddles and it sort of revolved around Jeff a little bit. It's definitely not that anymore. I'm getting better. We're more likely. There's now this thing that makes weird noises and looks weird to him, and I just, no end of dog guilt. Again, I still feel the dog guilt, but slightly less so because things are improving and we're all getting a bit more time and all of that kind of stuff, and we still have our cuddle with Jeff in the evening now because she's going to bed earlier and etc. So we'll get better, and Jeff is doing great. I mentioned him in a video, so I'll link that up here, but basically he's getting a lot better with Eloise. He licked her foot today, so that was an improvement. And then there's just guilt for everything. I feel guilty for not being a good wife anymore, guilty to Eloise if I'm cross with her or I get impatient because she's crying loads or whatever. And yeah, it's a lot, and it's got better, but I wouldn't say I'm completely guilt-free yet, and it does lead to a lot of upset and crying at points. There have been a number of occasions where me and Eloise just cried together. The most recent was the other night when she wouldn't go to sleep at 4:30 in the morning and I didn't know what to do and I'd done everything and we just had to cry together, and then she fell asleep and then I fell asleep and all was good. So yeah, the hormones are still all over the place. I still get choked up really, really easily. We're at Baby Sensory. There's a song that seems to get me every time, so I've been listening to that a lot to try and desensitize myself to it. Yeah, so it's a thing. Obviously it's another one of the stuff like my back that will just evolve. Maybe I'm just going to be a bit more an emotional person now. But I've read that as a woman you don't fully get back to yourself until like 2 years in. So I've got a long way to go because she's only 4 months. Sleep. I said about sleep, I said we'd talk about that. We have been so incredibly lucky with Eloise and sleep. At the moment, and for the last month, 6 weeks, it's been a bit of a fight to get her to go to sleep, but once she is, my God, is she a good sleeper. She's been sleeping through since about 6 weeks, 7 weeks old. So me and Pete, we both get a minimum of like 6 hours sleep every night, probably. We have done shifts, so we do sleep separately at the moment, which I know a lot of people disagree with. They think that you're never going to come back together if you do that. But for me to survive the days, again, less so now because she's more of a chilled, happy baby than she was a few weeks ago. But for me to survive the days, I need to have had sleep. I'm really, really bad if I haven't slept. I'm more likely to get emotional and cry and do all of the stuff that I was just mentioning. Sorry if it's just got really dark. I think it's about to absolutely downpour. But yeah, so for me to function, I need to sleep. Pete knows this because he's been with me for long enough. So he's taken our spare room, our guest room, and he takes Eloise from like 10. And then whenever she wakes up, and that can be anywhere from 3 till 7, she comes through to me and I give her a feed and a change of nappy, and then she does the next stint with me. But as I said, that could be at any point. The ones where she comes through at like 5:30 onwards are my favourite because I've had a good chunk of sleep. So even if I don't get back to sleep, or I choose to do some other stuff, I know I've had a good chunk of sleep, so I don't need to worry about it. So touch wood, she continues that way. Really worried if we have another baby that it won't be like that and I won't cope, because there have been moments I'm like, I've slept loads, why am I like this? How do other people manage? Very, very grateful to Eloise for being such a good sleeper. Really, really happy about that one. Obviously, in the first 3 months, Cuddles is a very important thing and I enjoy them greatly. We are in the realm of the contact nap. We struggle to do a nap not on me or on someone, mainly me because I'm here all day. I don't know whether that's partly my fault in that I just don't bother trying to put her down anymore because I've given up trying to fight with her to get back to sleep. Maybe I should try that again. But then again, it's also been a fight to get her to sleep, so once she is asleep I'm like, I'm not moving because this was a struggle. So maybe if those naps get easier, then I'm more likely to move her. But there's a lot of contact, and from whenever it is that they say that babies smile, that's about the time that she did. I think that was 7 weeks. That also just brings me so much joy, getting a big beaming smile from her. My favourite point of the day is when she's just woken up and it's like time to start the day and she's like, yeah, she's all happy and smiling, and that's the best. There was obviously a point where that was sort of the only time she would smile, was the morning, but no, now we get them all the time, and we're starting to get a few laughs and giggles out of her, but I'm yet to have a big belly laugh from her, which is what I'm really hoping for. I think that'll be like a big dopamine hit and I'm going to chase that all the time once she actually does it. So that's the cuddle part of it. I love it. The playing part is kind of tricky. What do you do with a baby that doesn't do a lot? Certainly in the early days I tried to put her on a tummy. She didn't like it very much. We've got in the habit, and we have done probably for about a month, maybe a little bit longer, of having a morning disco. So when I'm getting her dressed for the day, or Pete's getting her dressed for the day, she's got this like baby Einstein light up bar thing. We flip her onto her belly and she has a bit of a disco with that. She has rolled over with that one. I think it was a fluke because she hasn't done it since, or she hasn't done it flat since. If she's on a cushion, she's done it. Obviously Play has a lot of sitting and waving things in her face, and for a long time it felt a bit soul destroying because there's just not really any reaction to it. But now, and certainly in the last couple of weeks, she's really reaching out for things and going for them, and she's getting excited by things, and it's a lot better. But it just feels a bit tedious, and I feel, again, guilty to say this, but I just feel like I'm doing the same things day after day, and it's like, I'm getting bored with it. How are you not bored with it? But I don't know what else I can do with you. So if anyone's got any ideas of what I can do with a 4-month-old, please put them in the comments below, because I keep trying to come up with ideas. We get them when we do some different things, and some things go better than other things on days, and some things are a staple that she loves, like Freddie the Firefly. Thank you, my friend Josh and Lucinda, for sending that, because she loves it. But yeah, it just, you don't get a lot from it as the adult, let's put it that way. So unless she does something like miraculous and like rolls over, or like, I don't know. But we do it, and I just need some ideas. I need to make it interesting for me, and at the moment I'm a bit stale with it. So as I said, if you've got any ideas, put them in. But finding toys that seem appropriate are also a bit difficult. I highly recommend the Baby Einstein light up thing. I'm planning on doing a video about our sort of baby favourites for the past 3 months, and that will be in that one. So you'll be able to see it a bit more in that. As you've seen, we've done some crafting, we've made a light box, we've got different bits and bobs, but it's hard to make it not stale for me, but then I guess repetition for her is probably a good thing. Right, before this light goes really badly, and I'm not sure this is actually going to be a very good video in terms of lighting because it's gone really dark in here, but 2 things I want to end on, because one I saw online and it really helped me just get everything right in my head, and 2, if you're in the thick of it, just to make you feel better. But it does get better. The first 8 weeks, 2 months, I really struggled with coming to terms with it, I guess, understanding my new life, what I was doing, all of that kind of stuff. And then from 8 weeks we ventured out, and that has helped a lot, which surprises me because I thought I'd be very much a home bird. I'm lucky that we've got Jeff, so we do have to go out 3 times a day for walks with him, so I do get out every day, and that would be something that I would recommend. Just go for a walk, because it does help. It breaks up the day, it spends time. But even these classes, like, you get a routine to your week. You go, right, we're going here on that day and we're doing that on that day, and then I know that she's had a bit of stimulation that day, which helps me in my guilt of, am I doing enough to help you develop? And yeah, it does get easier, it does get more enjoyable, obviously, when they start reacting to you and they're not just like a potato lying around. You get more validation from it and things like that. And the thing that I read on Instagram that made me feel so much better was that the 4th trimester, well, the whole thing really, is just a bunch of contradictions. You've never been so happy but so sad at the same time. You've never been so busy but like bored at the same time. You've never been so like content but uncontent at the same time. Is a real battle between each 2 things of, this is the best thing ever and I really miss this. And reading that on Instagram really helped me, because I was like, oh okay, it like validated that I was allowed to feel that way. And I hope that if you haven't read it or heard it, that it might help you if you're feeling the same. So I think I've rambled on for too long. I hope this has been remotely helpful, maybe, probably not, but I hope you enjoyed my ramble. My dinner's nearly ready, so if you have enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. If you've got any questions or anything, please put them in the box below, and if you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe. As I said, I'm going to do a video about our favourite products for the last 3 months, which I think might be helpful, hopefully. So yeah, go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!